Man, this one is hilarious. So I think it was a month or two ago, Phil Spencer had an interview with Bloomberg. And I remember in that interview, he said, he was asked, "Oh, are you worried about, this deal going through with regulators?" And Phil Spencer's like, "We welcome it. It should be scrutinized. Like, take a look at it," right? And he looked really comfortable, right? As he should. He should look confident. And it was a very moving performance. But now the UK government actually starts pushing back, the CMA, and they say, "Hey, Microsoft, we just noticed Microsoft's closest gaming rival, Sony, is ability to compete as well as that of other existing rivals and potential new entrants who could otherwise bring healthy competition through innovative multi-game subscriptions and cloud gaming services." So these guys are saying without saying it, what about Amazon Luna? What about GeForce Now? What about Stadia, right? Maybe they're a little bit behind on the time. Stadia is obviously dead. But they're worried about new market entrants, right? Especially on cloud gaming services, which is a new thing. And I'm glad the CMA is recognizing that. It's about time a governing body actually did. But Microsoft says, and so, they move this thing to like phase 2 of the investigation, which is basically saying, hey, we're actually not going to pass this super easy. We're going to investigate this further, and it's not looking good for you. That's kind of what this thing says. And Microsoft says, these unsupported theories, right, everything listed, you can go read the article on GameIndustry.biz, but Microsoft says, these unsupported theories of harm are not sufficient to justify a reference to phase 2. Microsoft said in a detailed response. Now, Microsoft, of course, once they actually start getting pushback, don't like the pushback, but the CMA is certainly justified in this. Let's be real here. Of all the gaming companies out there, like the platform holders, right? We got Microsoft with Xbox, Nintendo with Switch, and Sony with PlayStation. And no one in the gaming industry, big or small, has the capabilities that Microsoft does in the cloud. The only other company that does is Amazon with Luna. Now, I'm planning on doing a separate video on Luna in the near future. I have a lot of thoughts on it. For example, I don't really think Luna knows what the heck they're doing. And so they're not really a threat to Microsoft right now, but they could be in the future. And Microsoft doesn't want that. I personally think, and I've said this for really the last 18 months, I'm going to say. My channel isn't that old, so don't try to look at it. But Microsoft bought Bethesda for this. Microsoft bought Activision Blizzard for this. This being, it blocks new entrants into the market. Buying Bethesda, buying Activision, it competes with Sony. It upsets Sony, yes. But Sony, while being Xbox's biggest competitor, is not Microsoft's biggest competitor. Microsoft's biggest competitor is Amazon, Google, and Apple. And all three companies in the last 3 years have made very heavy investment and very aggressive moves into the gaming industry. And the best way that Microsoft and Sony, and Nintendo for that matter, could possibly beat them back is to beat them back early and beat them back by locking them out of the market. And that is exactly what Microsoft is doing here. I mean, look at it. Shortly, just a couple months after Microsoft bought ZeniMax, Bethesda, Google closed their Stadia development studios. Just a couple months after. And now, a couple months after the announcement of the Activision Blizzard deal, Google just up and shuts down Stadia. You think that's a coincidence? That's not a coincidence. Microsoft is getting exactly what they want. And in a way, they've kind of won. Because Stadia, as much smack as people like to talk about it, Stadia actually had a clearer and more competent vision of gaming in a cloud format than any other cloud gaming company, including GeForce Now and Luna. Luna has awesome tech. It's really cool. And it's a viable competitor. But Amazon has no idea what to do with Luna. They have no idea what they're doing with it. The strategy that they've incorporated, and I won't go into great detail about this, so don't worry about it, but the strategy they're incorporating does not make sense. And so really Microsoft's biggest competitor that they need to really take seriously is gone now, and that was Google. You could argue maybe, is Apple competing with them? Yeah, but no. Apple has clearly shown that they're just interested in people gaming on iPhones. And they've got that market locked down anyways. Microsoft wants a piece of that market, right? That's what makes the King deal so attractive, right? With Candy Crush, which is probably the biggest mobile game by revenue. Maybe not more than Roblox, but anyway, I digress. So, it was a super smart move. It was the best move Microsoft could have made. But now, the CMA is smelling that. They're the first governing body that's actually said, we see what you're doing, Microsoft. We see what's going on. And actually, what you're doing is super anti-competitive. And in a way, it is. I mean, what we have in the gaming industry is an oligarchy. It's a few very, very big players. Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft. That's really it. Really. You have PC, you've got Steam, you've got Epic. But you don't really have those guys. They're there and they're cute. But the billions and billions go to three. Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo. And that's the way all three of those companies want to keep it. That's also why Sony is making these acquisitions. Believe it. There's a bit of a gentleman's agreement right now. As much as Sony and Microsoft hate each other, I guarantee you, there's a gentleman's agreement between the two of them is when we're buying these studios, we're only going to talk about each other. We're not going to talk about any other market entrants, market incumbents, Sony's the incumbent here. But anyway, market entrants. We're not going to talk about any new competitors. We're just going to talk about each other. We're just going to talk about Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft. Because these governments don't know about Boostroid and GeForce Now and Antstream and Jam.gg and Stadia and Luna. They don't know about it. And Sony and Microsoft want to keep it that way. But the UK smells it. It's another really interesting wrinkle in the drama that is the ABK acquisition. And there will be more videos just like this. So make sure you stick around.